Former Fox News star anchor Tucker Carlson and former White House advisor Neil Patel are reportedly looking to start a new media company. The pair are seeking to raise funds to start the company that would, quote, potentially use Twitter as its backbone. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. The new company would be based on longer versions of the free videos Carlson has been posting on Twitter since his exit from Fox News, but would be driven by subscriptions, according to people familiar with the matter.
Users of Twitter and other social media platforms will be able to watch shorter versions of his show, interviews, and documentaries for free, but would need to subscribe to watch them fully. The company will also add additional shows and hosts, the sources said. Carlson and Patel met when they were roommates at Trinity College in Connecticut, and in 2010, the two founded the Daily Caller, of which Patel is still head. The two are reportedly looking to raise hundreds of millions of dollars to fund their new company, which currently is unnamed. According to Puck News, Tucker's Twitter show has only been the tip of the iceberg as far as his future media endeavors go. And Jess, I got to tell you, I'm not surprised by this. I mean, when Tucker first put out that first video on Twitter, I remember texting a friend of mine who's an on-air talent at Fox News, anchors a show, and I said, this is going to be a huge pain in the side of Fox News. And he said, we'll see. Well, here we are about a month later. Fox News continues to suffer with ratings. They have tried everything possible to get Tucker to stop posting these videos on Twitter. He continues to persist. I think a huge portion of that audience will naturally gravitate to whatever he ultimately builds.
Yeah, I think wherever Tucker goes, he'll have some following behind him. But I think subscription-based streaming, the last thing people need is another Netflix or another Hulu subscription. I think people will be hesitant. 70 million people watching his first show, Tucker Carlson on Twitter, Tucker on Twitter. That's huge, but it was free, and it was on a platform a lot of people were already on. There's a big barrier to entry when you're asking people to not only give some dollars over on a consistent basis, but come over to a new app. It sounds like, I don't know if he's going to garner the same audience he would rival Fox News if they expand this to be a larger production company and have an amount of free programming that makes it worthwhile for people to download the app without subscribing. Maybe then we would see this rival Fox News. I think just Tucker Carlson production company being in the same sentence raises everybody's hairs. I think it's likely that this will be significant. I'm just not sure how significant, given it's based in Twitter. Not sure what's going to happen there. We have Elon Musk still the owner, but Linda Yaccarino now the CEO. I'm not sure what those negotiations look like, but Twitter branching off into being a streaming platform is not something I saw coming.
Yeah, look, I think it could be interesting. I mean, I think about Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire, and that's a subscription-based platform. I know many of the hosts are on that platform, and they are raking in the dollars, Jess. They're doing very well. And so I can see a combination of Twitter and maybe the Daily Caller combining some sort of way, maybe creating a new app where Twitter is maybe the leeway for the free content, which is what the Daily Wire is doing. Ben Shapiro's group is actually starting to do this now. They're removing a lot of the content from YouTube. They're going on Twitter. You can watch a few minutes, maybe 3-4 minutes of a show, and then there's a link that says to watch more, click here. And according to some of Ben's tweets, they have seen that to great effect. So I think Tucker could actually follow that model and within a year or so see a pretty robust app where people are willing to pay $20 a month to watch his content.
I think it honestly makes a lot of sense. I think Tucker Carlson was probably strapped by Fox News a little bit, or any major media company like that, where you have a nightly show. It's pretty clear based on what we've heard that he did have some people influencing what he could say, what he could not say. He said he liked Twitter because it allowed him to have free speech. I think people like opinion-based journalism, not something that's polished material from a really big media company or a media mogul like Fox, where you have executives telling commentators what to say and what not to say, and what issues to weigh on and what issues to cover more or less. And so I think it's good that people are moving towards that kind of journalism when it comes to political journalism. I think there is no neutral political journalism. You need to have people's opinions very explicitly stated. And so I think people like following folks that they trust. There are a lot of people that trust Tucker Carlson, even if he was influenced by Fox in some capacity. And so I think it's a good model model to have people follow hosts for their opinions. I think that we've seen companies like even YouTube get pretty stringent about what content they'll put ads on, what content they deem appropriate for ad materials. And I think that's turned a lot of people off, including, the Daily Caller and the Daily Wire. However, there is one benefit, and that it's free to watch if you watch an ad. There's a very low barrier to entry, and a bunch of people are already on YouTube. So I'm interested to see how this plays out for Tucker and his base. I do think you're right that we could see a merger between Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson here.
Yeah, I think that would be fascinating to watch. I mean, you're talking about two of the largest, most respected names on the conservative right. But, Jess, I think this points to a much larger problem, though, for the mainstream media in general, whether it's CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and others. The fact that you have very talented individuals who are saying, I'm not interested in working or operating within this media landscape anymore. I want to break free of these chains and be able to give my unabashed truth, my opinions, my thoughts without risk of being persecuted or censored directly to my audience. And what you're starting to see, Jess, is more and more people are starting to do this. I mean, look at TikTok, for example. Oftentimes I go to TikTok and I look at what people are saying about politics just to get an idea of what regular people are saying. And you have individuals, Jess, that are getting numbers that rival, and I hate to say this, some of the numbers that some shows on CNN are getting. And so I think, to the point that you made, more and more people are looking to get their news from sources that they trust, where they know that they are beyond the wall of a media apparatus that's more than likely pulling the strings of their opinions.
Right. There's on the one hand, the convenience. If you're already on TikTok, you're scrolling through the app, something comes up that's a story you're interested in, you're much more likely to watch it there. There's definitely that side of it. It's convenient. Then there's this other aspect of people are getting sick of this very polished way of getting their news, the traditional news style. I think many people are wary, especially Gen Z. I'm talking about younger people, millennials even as well. We don't really like the traditional kind of nightly news that sometimes is on Fox, definitely on CNN, NBC, MSNBC. We just don't take to it. Doesn't feel organic, doesn't feel natural. And so there are a lot of young people that want alternatives. But then there's also this aspect for people of any age, where there's been a lot of mistrust in mainstream media that's been the result of how they've decided to cover stories, what stories they've covered, what facts they've left out, what they've said about stories. And so now we're in this situation where there's a huge opportunity for independent media, simply a problem created by the way mainstream media has decided to run giving people the news, whether it's in print or it is in news, in video format. And so I think we can't really blame these alternatives for coming up. I think mainstream media is to blame for people's exit from mainstream media, Tucker Carlson included, but also the audience as well.
Yeah, look, I think Tucker realizes what everyone in this industry realizes, and that is that the days of Walter Cronkite are over. People would once upon a time turn on the local news to get an objective truth or fact about an issue, not a subjective one. They knew at that point in time, I don't have to know what Walter Cronkite's political views are. I don't have to know if he's a Democrat or Republican, if he likes Richard Nixon or if he doesn't like Richard Nixon. I just know he's going to give me the facts based on reporting. Jess, I don't know if we can do that today. I don't know if I turn on a cable news or maybe even a local outlet, depending on who that outlet is owned by, whether or not I'm purely getting the facts without the opinion of the host or the opinion of the entity that actually owns that particular channel. And so I think a lot of people are saying, since I cannot navigate through the mess, through the noise, then I'm willing to go elsewhere to find news from individuals that I trust. And I think Tucker realizes that. And I think in the next year or two, Jess, we will see a lot of success from him. And I think others will also follow suit.
Yeah, I think there's two sources of bias beyond including your opinion in what you're saying. There's what you choose to cover. There's a lot going on. What you deem an important story is one source. It's of bias, but it's also, people rely on journalists. They trust to make that decision. Bias is a word that has a negative connotation. What stories you find important tells us a lot about you as a journalist. Then you have what facts you choose to include out of all of the facts and details available. Those those are two major sources of bias without any opinion. And even Walter Cronkite had some sort of bias based on those two factors. And so it makes sense that now people are really evaluating news media based on who do they trust? What facts would maybe they have included if they were looking into the story themselves? Nobody has time to investigate every story they're interested in. That's why they rely on journalists and hosts to do it for them. And so I think now we are in the space where people are following individuals, and maybe Tucker Carlson's setting a precedent, or maybe he's riding a wave that was definitely already rolling before he decided to leave Fox News.
I mean, Jess, only time will tell. Can Tucker do what Megyn Kelly wasn't able to do, what Bill O'Reilly wasn't able to do? Give it a year or two, and we'll find out. More Rising after this.